I've played so much Pokemon in my life. Pokemon Red was one of the first games I ever played, the franchise as a whole is the franchise I've played the most, and I even have a YouTube channel completely dedicated to just Pokemon games. And to be honest, I'm tired of it. After 25 years of playing almost nothing but Pokemon, it's time to move on and completely revamp not only the games I play, but this channel as well, starting with... That's right, I'm a Shrek tuber now. I don't even know if that's a thing, but we're making it one now if it's not already. What better way to start off my brand new Shrekness than with a video of playing Shrek 2 how Nintendo intended, thanks to this strategy guide. Well, Nintendo didn't technically make the game, but we're playing on the GameCube version of the game that I picked up from Retro Island Gaming, and surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, there's quite a few Shrek games out there. Now you might be wondering why I'm starting off with Shrek 2 when there's a Shrek 1 game that's exclusive to the original Xbox. Also wanted to note how the green Xbox case looks great with Shrek's greenness. But I opted for Shrek 2 because it has a strategy guide and Shrek 1 didn't. The game follows mostly the events of the second movie, which yes, I did rewatch in preparation for this video, and I had to VPN to Australia and Netflix to watch it, since for some reason Shrek 2 isn't a very accessible movie to watch, and no, this isn't some sort of segue to a VPN sponsor, although it would fit rather nicely. And while looking up how to watch Shrek 2 in 2024, I also learned that this year is Shrek 2's 20th anniversary, and it will be returning to select theaters in April. That's quite the coincidence, but now let's just get more into the actual guide. The front cover doesn't really show too much other than a close-up of Shrek's face, which to be honest is really all that we need anyway. Then the back shows a bit more about the game and says how there's 10 playable characters. Pokemon games only have 2 playable characters, and some of the older ones only have 1 playable character. So in the playable character department, Shrek is at least 5 times better than Pokemon, so that's 1 point for Shrek. I'm just going to skip right to the first level and then talk about the front and back pages of the guide to give you guys a better understanding of how the game works, because I don't expect that too many people out there have played Shrek 2 for the GameCube. I also don't expect this video to perform particularly well because, well, I mean, it's Shrek, but it's not about the numbers, it's about the swamp. But for real, if you guys want to support the channel, leave a like, leave a comment, it'll help a lot. The game starts off in Shrek's swamp. Not entirely movie accurate because the movie starts off with Shrek going too far, far away to meet Fiona's parents, but we'll let this slide. The guide tells us that the point of this level is to get things that Shrek will need for his trip too far, far away. This includes some snail eyes, an ogre delicacy, some coins, and of course some magic beans, because who doesn't love magic beans? We have 4 characters to play with that we can switch between, which I'll explain more on in a bit, and if you couldn't tell already, this game is basically a collectathon that plays similar to Banjo-Kazooie. I feel like everyone had that platformer game they played as a child that defined them, and for most people that's a Mario game, Banjo-Kazooie, or a Sonic game. If you're weird like me, that platformer was Spyro, and if you're even weirder, then you probably had this game. Going back to the first few pages of the guide, it explains the intro to the movie, which I assume you've already seen since Shrek 2 is an absolute classic, then a bit on each character and how they can be used. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses and moves which are needed to progress through some levels, and it also shows a bit on each character. Like, did you know that Shrek was 8 feet tall? I don't know what he's doing in a swamp being 8 feet tall when he can be on the court helping Jalen Brunson instead, but some other playable characters that we'll see later on include the Big Bad Wolf and Lil Red, which weren't even in the movie, and I don't know what they're doing in our swamp. And we also have this generic fairy character, and strangely, no Pinocchio. Pinocchio played a pivotal role in the movie, busting Shrek and Donkey out of jail, so omitting him is truly a travesty. Now while the game is a collectathon and the next few pages go on to show more about each item you can collect, my main goal is just to complete the main story and not really collect every single item. To quickly discuss the back of the guide, there's a couple of puzzles that the previous owner filled out, and here's another blast from the past. This is an ad for a Shrek game you can play on your wireless phone. This was before the App Store and before smartphones were really a thing, and you can't even play most of these mobile games anymore since they were on flip phones, but I do miss the days of playing Sonic the Hedgehog on my Motorola Razr. Anyway, back to the swamp. While collecting some materials in my swamp, we run into some merry men and have a brawl in Lay Hood. This is just to teach you the basics on the fighting in this game, which can be a lot of spamming the B button, but each character has different unique attacks, like Donkey's Y attack is called Burrow Blast, which is quite powerful and can break down some locks. Shrek can belly flop to stun enemies, and Fiona has this cool spinny move in the air that can also slow down time. If you want to slow down time, you have to find an hourglass item, which I don't think is entirely lore accurate either, and the gingerbread man can throw his candy like a boomerang. A lot of the time, the 4th character in our party is just a filler character, and they really could have just worked with just 3 characters for each level, so you have some weird situations where characters are in places where they really shouldn't appear in the movie. Another objective in the swamp is to collect the 12 fairies, and the guide says, gotta catch them all for this section. I can't help but feel like I've heard that phrase before, and the level ends with us meeting Little Red and taking her to Grandma's house. That completes the first level, and now we can move on to the spooky forest. I hated this level. Basically, we have to guide the 3 blind mice through the forest, and for some reason there's just cheese littered all around this level that the mice are attracted to and can't help but to run towards. And since they are blind, they just run into bad guys as well and die, so we have to be really quickly, as if the blind mice die, we have to go back to the last checkpoint. I also wanted to mention that this game has voice acting, which you might hear in the background, and a lot of the times when you pull one of these levers or pause the game, your character just farts. That's 2 points for Shrek 2 over Pokemon, since as far as I know, you can't fart in a Pokemon game. We have to defuse some mousetraps here, and I really don't understand why the Wicked Witch put mousetraps for the blind mice, but if it wasn't for us, I guess it would be working and the blind mice would just be stuck. Now, similar to the Hourglass power-up Fiona can use to slow down time, Little Red can find poisonous apples that act like a grenade as a special item. Her main attack is just throwing regular apples that can stun the enemy for about a second, and even though she isn't in the movie, she is one of the best characters in this game because of how overpowered her apples are. We continue along the land and collect whatever we need to reach the pest cemetery. These stupid mice keep falling and dying, and this eventually leads us to our first hero time. These are end of level missions focusing on one character, and this time it's all about Donkey and Dragon. We have to fly around and avoid obstacles, and I know what you're thinking. Dragon doesn't appear in the Shrek 2 movie until the very end, but once we complete hero time, we can finally go to Far, Far Away where the movie actually does start. The intro scene to this level explains Shrek's first meeting with King Harold and Queen Lillian, much like how it went in the movie. It then goes on to say that the king mocked Shrek's ogre girth, and we all know not to mess with an ogre's girth, since much like onions, ogres have many layers. This level was pretty neat though, since the land of Far, Far Away acted like a small hub world with 5 mini levels throughout that we had to complete. The first one was called Family Jewels, where we had to take back the jewels that were picked up by this evil troll without it seeing us, which was pretty easy. Then there was Shopping Spree, where we have to protect Cinderella as she shops and angry peasants try to attack her. Far, Far Away has a serious problem with angry peasants just running around attacking people, and this took me quite a few attempts to get through, since a lot of the times when you're only controlling one of the 4 players, the other 3 just kind of sit around and do nothing and just take damage and die. The Humpty Dumpty level had a few angry peasants too, but all we had to do was find Humpty Dumpty's eggshells after he fell. Even after defeating all the peasants in this level, we can still hear them chanting, which was odd, but these other minigames were much easier than the shopping with Cinderella one. I even managed to somehow skip the one where you're supposed to chase after lost chickens, and I don't know how I skipped it. Maybe you only have to complete 4 of the 5 missions to progress, or maybe it was a glitch. This level takes place after Shrek reads Fiona's diary and is invited to go hunting with the king, but is really a trap for an assassin, in this case Puss in Boots, to kill Shrek. This level was a rhythm game where you had to press buttons in the order they appear to dodge Puss in Boots' attacks and then strike him when he's not looking. It was pretty straightforward, with our other 2 team members being Little Red and the Gingerbread Man. Once we defeat Puss in Boots, he joins our party and offers to take us to the fairy godmother's house. I noticed at this level too that Puss in Boots' voice acting sounded a bit off, and it was definitely not Antonio Banderas voicing him like it was in the movie. It turns out the whole voice cast for this game is different than it was in the Shrek 2 movie, which in hindsight probably shouldn't be too much of a surprise, but Shrek and Donkey sounded so much like their movie counterparts that I didn't even question until I heard Puss in Boots' voice for the first time. Puss in Boots' voice actor in this game is Andre Sogliozzi. I'm probably butchering that name pronunciation. But they also voiced Sparks in the Spyro Reignited trilogy, which is kind of funny because I did mention Spyro earlier in this video. The next level is called Walking the Path, and it details our journey to the fairy godmother's house. This level was really long, but pretty straightforward. We learn about Puss in Boots' ability to walk across this tightrope to get us useful items and open other areas of the game, and help William Gruff the Billy Goat not get eaten by a troll. Towards the end of the level, we fight a different troll that throws bombs at us, but the guide says how we can use Donkey's Burrow Blast to just send the bombs back to the troll. And then we have a hero time with Puss in Boots where he has to travel across a waterfall to reach the top. This level played a lot like a Crash Bandicoot level since it was a side-scrolling platforming level. But before we reach the fairy godmother's house, we have to make another stop at Jack and Jill's farm. This level played out similarly to the Far, Far Away level, where the farm acts as a hub world and we have to help the 3 little pigs complete 5 different minigame tasks. This level strangely starts off with a hero time featuring the Gingerbread Man though. This was not accurate to the movie at all either, and this level was really tedious. It was a pretty straightforward platforming level where you have to dodge rolling tomatoes and jump across these flowers, but the controls were very slippery. Whenever I jump, sometimes I just get stuck under the flower and then fall into the abyss, or sometimes I'd land on the flower and then just slide off a second later. This took me quite a while to get through, and in this level we have evil pumpkins to take out, and when we do that, the guide says pumpkin pie will be back on the menu, boys. That's like the only joke the guide made in this entire walkthrough. Now I accidentally did some of these quests out of order, so second I went to the cornfield to have a chicken hoedown and catch some chickens before they turned into poultrygeists. I'm pretty sure this level was also glitched out on me because we needed to find 25 chickens and I was only able to find 24 and just couldn't find the last one no matter how much I looked. I eventually found one chicken out of bounds that I tried to wrangle up but I couldn't, so I was forced to reset the level and try again. And luckily on the second attempt I found all 25 chickens in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. We helped the 3 little piggies with the rest of the missions, but then can finally continue across into the fairy godmother's house. Here we have to get through some security lasers in the corridor to make it to the storeroom. In the movie, Shrek just pretended to be part of the Union to get right into the storeroom, but this works too, I guess. This level has an early hero time as well, with Little Red fighting the fairy godmother. You have to jump across these 3 conveyor belts while dodging projectiles and dodging whatever's on the conveyor belt and then throwing apples at the fairy godmother. Now in the movie, you don't see the fairy godmother until after you steal the potion, but in the game, we go steal the potion after seeing the fairy godmother. This level does play similarly to the movie, where Puss in Boots is the one to climb all the way to the top to steal the potion to turn Shrek into handsome Shrek so Fiona can marry him and the queen and king will be happy with him. This really annoys the fairy godmother, so we have to run and escape her in a level similar to the Warthog runs in Halo, and then fight Prince Charming. The guide says to use Little Red to fight Prince Charming, since if we throw apples at him he can't ever reach us, which then triggers the end of the level where we try to escape, but Shrek and Donkey get captured in the process. This level was a stealth mission with the big bad wolf and this random generic fairy joining us this time to break Shrek and Donkey out of prison. We have to dodge the guards and the spotlights and roll this giant ball around to take out guards before they see us, and also use the ball to press some buttons. Big Bad Wolf also has this really good special move where it just blows any enemy out of the way, so I was able to knock off a lot of enemies just off the edge of the castle. I don't really understand why the fairy is with us though, since in the movie Pinocchio is the one that breaks Shrek and Donkey out of prison, and he isn't even a playable character in this game at all. I had a bit of trouble in this level and thought I might have glitched the game again, since on this level you have to keep jumping on these wooden buttons to raise the platforms or raise stairs, while in other levels you only have to jump on this button one time and it would raise the stairs or platform. Along the way, we also had to free the 3 blind mice who somehow got stuck and captured here as well, and eventually leads us to another hero time at the end of the level featuring the big bad wolf walking upstairs and dodging all of these bombs. Now with Shrek and Donkey free, they turn into handsome Shrek and noble steed Donkey. They're one character combined and they were pretty overpowered. They have a lot of health, have a projectile move, and can move rather quickly. We have to get out of the mine to save the princess and battle some statues along the way. A lot of these mini-bosses have a trick to defeating them, which the guide explains for us, and for these soldiers we have to wait until they get dizzy from their spinning attack because they spin around a lot. The level ends with a hero time of Shrek and Donkey chasing down the fairy godmother in a Temple Run-esque level, and the guide gives us a tip that if we stay in the center of the level, we just dodge every obstacle. Once we return to Far, Far Away, we can help the giant gingerbread man invade the castle so we can save the princess, much like it happened in the movie. First, we have to put out some fires and save some villagers, then head to the rooftops and meet the giant cookie. We have to take out the guards trying to stop the giant gingerbread man with these water cannons. And my game glitched again here since I defeated all of the guards, but the cookie would just stand still and not move to the end of the level, so I had to reset this quite a few times. Then when it finally worked and the gingerbread man got to the end, I missed the jump you were supposed to make to jump on his hand and then go to the next part of the level, which I also missed a couple of times. So I did this level, I want to say 8 or 10 times until we finally got to the end of the castle and had another Shrek hero time to help the giant gingerbread man break in the castle. Then finally, we have the final fight in the last level of the game where we return back to ogre form, have Fiona back on our side, and make this fairy godmother get out of our swamp for good. The final fight was in waves with some guards attacking us first, followed by some of fairy godmother's potion makers attacking us, then some trolls, and finally the fairy godmother herself. We hammer away as much as we can and took quite a few attempts to reach the fairy godmother fight. I tried so many times to defeat her but kept dying because whichever party members I wasn't controlling would just stand in the way of her attacks and just die. And while playing this final level of the game, I started to realize that maybe becoming a Shrek tuber just wasn't for me. Maybe I should just stick to Pokemon since I know it so well, it's what I play the best. And I'm just not cut out for the ogre lifestyle to be a Shrek tuber. I'll just return to my own swamp and keep playing Pokemon and keep making Pokemon videos. Now in terms of the guide and the game, they were both pretty solid. The guide was very straightforward and didn't really have any funny moments or anything that was a mistake. Granted, if there was a mistake, I wouldn't know because I never played this game before. But it did a pretty good job of guiding me through the game. The game itself was decent as well. Not amazing, but definitely not terrible and pretty good for a movie-based game. It was a bit short and can be completed on your first playthrough in under 6 hours, but if you're a fan of platforming and I guess just like Shrek and Collectathon games too, then I definitely recommend trying this game out. It's on the GameCube, Xbox, PlayStation 2, and even PC. According to the back of the guide, the PC version is for Windows 98 even. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing, it helps the channel a ton. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about Shrek and what your favorite Shrek movie is. That'll do for now though, Donkey. I'm gonna go make some waffles.